Hello there, soul family, and welcome to episode 111 of the Radiant Souls podcast. The topic of today is why is pride important? And just a little bit of a trigger warning. This does include topics of bullying, suicide, and some other things that might be triggering. So I just want to give you that heads up. So it's not just a party, it's a protest. It's rising above trauma. So here's the story of how I almost didn't make it. I've been reflecting on how to talk about pride in this space, in this context, now that I'm being more visible and more vulnerable publicly for anyone to see on the interwebs. I could remain very academic about it and talk about the reasons it's important for the community as a whole, what it does for society. I could talk about the evolution of pride itself. I could talk about my own personal story and views and experiences of pride, the celebration. Um, I could simply just list affirmations and post more healing topics for my community. But instead, I thought, being more vulnerable, more personal would help you get to know me and my experience and how I arrived to where I'm at. And I know so many people will be able to relate to my story. This is not unique, um, but it's unique to me. It happened in my own way, in my own context. So I I'm going to tell you the story of little boy Matthew and his experience growing up as a way to express how life-saving or how devastating words can be to a child who is questioning their orientation, their gender, or identity in general. So this episode is as much for my LGBTQ community as it is for those who know someone, and you do know someone who belongs to the LGBTQ community, whether you're aware of it or not. So, little Matthew was the third son, three children, all boys, the third son born in 1983 and went through 9 years of Catholic school. So, kindergarten through eighth grade, small school, 60 kids in my grade, I think I graduated with, and that was always split in two classrooms. So, 30 kids in a classroom at any given time. My two brothers were the sporty type, and my dad was involved with their sports, and I was not sporty at all. I was the sensitive nerd who loved spirituality and had odd behaviors from the very beginning. Um, One that always comes to mind that I remember is that I was able to identify the make and model of any car on the road. Just at like a glance like that, I would know what it is just from looking at it. From far away, not being able to see any logos or anything like that. Um, and this was kind of at the disbelief of people around me or parents. And I didn't do it like in front of anyone except family, but um, they would be like, no, I think that's a Ford, whatever. And then we'd get closer and they're like, wow, you're right. Um, so that was just one little quirk of mine of many. Um, I grew up around a lot of females, and I had a few female neighbor friends that I spent most of my free time with, especially in the summers. Just, laughing and playing, and we were very creative. We like created our own games most of the time. So this was back before like computers and like when you had to like use your imagination. Um, my grandma was also one of my main caregivers, so I was very close with her while my parents worked. And I'm not ashamed to say that I was definitely her favorite grandchild. It wasn't really a secret. Um, so here is where a child learns things that are not okay. So we're going to get into that part. My grandma very much encouraged my spirituality with zeal, um, but said that I should hide it from my dad because he doesn't like that kind of stuff. And he wasn't. He was never a very spiritual person. Um, my mom encouraged my love for the arts, but again, my dad was like, the word sissy would come out sometimes. Um, Where I did connect with my dad, though, was basketball. So this is when it was actually fun to go to a Cavs game, and it wasn't like celebrity worship. This is pre-LeBron James. Um, Back the first time when the colors were blue and orange. Um, and it was just a nice bonding time. It was a nice experience to like be in this like really cool space and enjoy that with him. Um, so through my child lens, my child filter, I had to hide parts of myself in front of certain people in order to earn love and acceptance from those who took care of me. So you can see the patterns and the rules being created in my head. Um, and this isn't unique to me. We all get these things imprinted when we're young, right? So around the age of 12, so like seventh grade, is when some of the bullying started. Not some, a lot of bullying started. Um, it was like a few words or jokes at first from the boys that kind of then turned into harsher words and threats, and some, albeit mild, physical harm. So I can't remember a time I ever reported anything. If I did, it was probably something more mild to test to see what would happen. Um, I really didn't want to be a rat, a tattletale. You just didn't do that because that would just make it worse for me. And not to mention, I was embarrassed about the things they were saying about me because I knew there was truth to it. I was not very masculine at 12 years old. Um, I was just trying to enjoy life, and the things I liked to enjoy and how I did it wasn't acceptable to my peers. And so, yeah, I was super embarrassed about the things that were being said to me, and I'm going to tell you some of those things. I didn't want to imagine a little boy not wanting to repeat these things to an adult about himself. You're such a girl. Why don't you play sports? Are you actually a girl? You have no penis. You have no friends. No one likes you. Just admit it. You're a faggot. Why don't you just die? That last one started to happen more and more often. Um, that the only solution that everyone else saw at that point was for me to just disappear, just die, just die. Um, so you might be thinking, what the hell were the adults in the room doing? Well, when they did see me panicking or crying, and I was actually pretty good at hiding. I would pretend like they were just annoying and blow them off, but sometimes I couldn't. And um, so the way our school was, there was two teachers per grade, and then there were like volunteer parents that would do things around the school. So um, they would just say, "Stop crying. You're too sensitive. That's just how boys are." Or my favorite, um, what do you expect when you're behaving like that? Or, well, you shouldn't hang out with girls so much. You should make friends with the boys. You should get involved in the sports. So I should just change who I am. I should just change everything about my life, to stop this bullying, to stop being told you're a faggot, kill yourself. So, what also got imprinted. I wasn't safe to be me in certain situations around certain people. I had to earn the love by doing the things that they like. Um, and now all of who I am is my fault, and the reason I'm being punished is my fault. So my feelings were not valid. I brought this on myself. Shame, guilt, embarrassment. Please don't tell my parents. Don't tell my grandma who loves me so much because I can't lose that too. So it was around this age that the suicidal ideation started. I mean, I was being reminded of it, but I thought about it myself daily. When most kids are worried about the next test or the next game or what they want to say when they see their friends tell them a story, I was thinking about dying. It started with just praying that I would just die in my sleep, and then it became more imaginative. And every morning that bus ride, oh, the bus rides were torture because now the younger kids on the bus were picking up on the things that were being said about me and the rumors about me and saying stuff to me. So now I was getting it from younger kids too. The one or two friends that I did have started to kind of distance themselves from me. And I mean, I wanted to die. I feared going into high school next, because I just expected it to get worse and more physical, maybe. And there would just be more people. And because I went to Catholic school, the expectation, especially from the school itself, not really my family, but the expectation from the school was that I would go on to one of the two, three Catholic schools, and two of those high schools were all boys, and I just could not imagine being in a school full of these people. Um, so part of this process was before we finished our eighth grade year, we had to start touring the Catholic high schools. And if we wanted to tour a public high school, we had to set that up with our family on our own because we were all from different cities. So at one of those tours, this was a very affluent boys' school, high school. We sat through this assembly. I remember like, well, whatever. I I think at some point we were in like the sports area and there was a locker room and I saw like the showers and stuff. And I'm like, wait, am I gonna have to do this? I couldn't. I mean, I just died inside. But then it gets worse. So then we had this assembly that we attended. We watched these kids. I don't know. There was some sort of ceremony with these boys. It was probably towards the end of the year, that kind of stuff. And they announced a boy's name on the speaker in front of the whole school, and he started walking towards the stage. And I picked up on it, hit my radar right away. He didn't walk like other boys. Is that how I walk? And then the shouts came from the crowd, faggot. And he just walked up, ignoring, not upset, proudly, confidently. But my heart sank in that moment. And I remember my vision going dark and feeling lightheaded. Um, because I could see myself as that boy that just had to walk in front of a whole school and be humiliated with a horrible slur. You have to understand when you don't know you're gay or you're suppressing it so much that you're in denial, that word, you just want to shut everyone up. You just, no, don't say that. Don't bring attention to it because if you stop bringing attention to it, nobody will try to guess that. Nobody, it's the mind trying to protect you. But I saw this as my future. 4 years. I'm gonna have to do this for 4 years. All the boys I currently went to school with, at least some of them, were going to end up at this school or the other one for the most part. And they would just tell all the boys I didn't know from area suburbs, um, and they would all just make my life miserable. So, around this time, still in the grade school, uh, I did make quite a friend. So, I'm gonna make this a little bit lighter right now. So he was like one of the biggest kids in our class. He had hit a growth spurt early on. Um, and that's like true street cred with the boys at this age. I had no cred with my high pitched girly voice. So this kid found me amusing, and we became friends. We just made each other laugh. We had similar interests in like video games and movies, and that's kind of how we connected. And like his physical presence alone kept other kids from trying it with me. Um, and they would say that to me, well, you're lucky you have him to protect you. I'm like, who's protecting me? Like, he didn't make any threats to anyone. Um, so I couldn't understand why he wanted to be my friend because, I had that program running that I'm not lovable unless I'm someone else. Um, so, the truth is, I think he just didn't really care what other people thought. Like, whatever, it just wasn't important. That kind of need for that sort of acceptance just wasn't important. Um, I never told him how grateful I was for his friendship, or how much that meant to me. Just, again, 12, 13 years old, can't really articulate that well. Um, but it saved my life. That friendship saved my life. So I do believe in human angels, and I believe that he was sent to me to protect me from myself, honestly. So clearly, I chose to go to public high school. I felt my chances were better with a school full of people who didn't know me because I could get a fresh start, right? Um, but with adolescence came hormones, came more anxiety. I started feeling more physical anxiety. My intense preoccupation with how I presented myself, which any adolescent is like that. But I was extra careful about with this fresh group of people if they can't see me act gay. So I closed off. I didn't talk much. I wore very plain, basic clothing, mostly black, just to kind of be a wallflower. I didn't raise my hand. I didn't join any clubs. I just wanted to survive for 4 years under the radar, draw no attention to myself. The less people who knew me, the more safe I would be. So for the most part, high school was actually pretty great. I wasn't teased. No one cared. The bullying stopped. Um, so I'm so grateful for that blessing. I made great friends. I'm still friends with some to this day. Um, yeah, I had a lot of fun for the most part. I had a lot of fun. However, puberty is, when that hits, that's a very difficult time in our lives. Lots of hormones, lots of confusion. Um, and I was still deluding myself that I liked girls. So there was a moment about like 14 or 15 that I was like working, and this very attractive man just walked by and smiled and said hello or something, just very in passing. And again, I felt my heart sink and my vision going dark again. And I just remember thinking, wow, he had such a handsome face. He had great hair. Um, and it was like I could just no longer deny it. I could no longer deny it. But I did suppress further as much as I could, and the suicidal ideation was like consuming my thoughts day and night. And that was like my only out. That was my sure way of not having to deal with any pain. So eventually, with all those thoughts, I mean, there were times where once I could drive, I would go at night and just sit in parking lots and just cry. I would go on drives for hours, just stuck in my head. What can I do? How do I kill myself? What's the most painless way? Um, Eventually I said some scary things like along the lines of, "Hey, in case I don't wake up tomorrow," to my mom. And that ended up getting me into therapy and on SSRIs. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, super grateful that saved my life in that moment. Um, Not my favorite therapist, and I don't like prescription medications, but it did what it needed to do in that moment, which was save my life. Um, and then here's where my spirituality that I was strong in came back to help me. One Sunday in church, I was 17 years old and I was just crying in church. This was all so much. I was in therapy at the time, all that. And I think that the therapy, I went to therapy to deal with social phobia. That's what I went. I didn't go to talk about being gay. I went to talk about anxiety and depression. And um, I was starting to release a lot of that and do well with some of that. So I think a lot of the layers were starting to peel off, and now the identity, the orientation, accepting myself for who I am was starting to come to the surface. Like, okay, you dealt with the immediate needs. This is now what needs to be dealt with. So I was just sitting there in church crying. I was begging and bargaining with God to make me straight. Um, you know, at this age, what are you worried about? Getting a nice car or a car at all. Going to the movies, back in the day. Um, Starting to think about college. What do you want to do after high school? Or where do you want to work? What do you want to do? And I was sitting there begging God to make me straight. That was my goal. I don't want this. I don't want this life. Something's wrong. Something's broken. There was a mistake. There was a mistake made with me. Please, I've been through enough. I can't do this my whole life. Please, I can't live a lie with a woman. So can you just make me want to be with a woman? And I can't kill myself. I can't do that to myself. I can't do that to my family. They won't understand. No one understands. It was in this moment that I received one of my earliest intuitive messages that I can remember. I heard a voice in my head saying very peacefully and almost like it was smiling. I felt so relieved in this moment because the words I heard were, "It's okay. You're okay. You will always be okay. You're okay as you are." And just those simple words just settling on me. I still get choked up because it was such a powerful moment in my life. And it was in that moment that I realized I am who I am supposed to be. And I just need to figure this out. Um, there may be consequences. Maybe my family won't speak to me ever again. Maybe I have to move and start a whole new life all over again. I can do it. I felt so relieved. I felt like I shed generations and lifetimes of weight that was on my chest. So that's one step forward, right? So then I tell my therapist, "Hey, I'm gay." I think that's what a lot of this is. I'm gay. And of course, she knew. Um, I hate when therapists have to say stuff like that. It's not helpful. It's not helpful. Um, so then she's like, "You need to tell your parents." And so, one thing about being a minor still in therapy is that the therapist could go ahead and tell my parents everything. They're not ethically supposed to without my assent. I can't consent as a minor, but I can give my assent, especially at 17 as an older minor. Um, but she was pushing me to do it. And, I get it. Having been a therapist myself, I get that you have to check boxes and you have to do them quickly, and your case notes have to reflect it, and you have to meet the speed and the progress that the organization you work for expects of you, as well as our beloved insurance companies. So, I get that now, but at the time it was just like, give me a minute, please. Like, this is a lifetime of trauma that I'm just now coming to terms with. So I kept saying no, and then eventually she's like, can you tell one parent? I'm like, it's definitely going to be my mom, that's for sure. So I told my mom. I came out to her at age 17, kneeling next to her bed, shaking with fear, not knowing what was going to happen. And she just calmly replied, okay, I still love you, no matter what. Be who you are. I couldn't believe it. But why couldn't I? I mean, what was she gonna do? Um, I received the permission I needed to be me, and that I would be safe at home with my mom. I told her I didn't want my dad to know, and she was fine with that. She's like, he probably wouldn't understand it anyway. I don't think he would do anything to you or say he just wouldn't understand it. Her only concern was how people were going to treat me out in the world. Um, Knowing that this was a cruel world that we live in, and around this time that in history, that this was like early 2000s, so the early years of George W. Bush. And so around this time, this was the pendulum was swinging heavily into the conservative, and states were starting to ban marriage equality. So this was before the Supreme Court ruling, and of course, living in Ohio, Ohio was one of them to protect marriage. Um, what's funny is it punished all the heterosexual couples who had the civil union benefits. They had to get married or figure it out. So, uh, around this time, around this time, like a few years earlier, late 90s, also, we all saw on TV Matthew Shepard was beaten and tortured to death in a hate crime. And in a suburb near me, a boy facing similar fears as me about coming out and people teasing him for being gay, he unalived himself. By the way, did you know that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual identifying peers? So the world was already cruel, even when I wasn't out. So fuck it. My coming out or not, it's not going to save me, nor is it going to condemn me. Um, so I just started thinking, well, my coming out is making me feel better. Each person I told, it made me feel better. And it could be helpful to others. At that age, I wasn't thinking too much of that, but like this could also save others. I mean, what if that kid, I knew that kid in my school, and we had somehow made a pact. We're going to come out together. We're going to stick together. We're going to do this together. Like, what if we had a friend that knew that? So one thing that they don't tell you about coming out is that you do it for the rest of your life. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice. So eventually you stop saying it to people because First of all, why should we? Straight and cisgender people don't have to make this announcement to their families, so why should we? That's one thing. However, coming out does make people more aware and less ignorant if they're open and willing. Um, but you come out in different ways, in more passive ways, when people ask if you have a girlfriend. No. Oh, you just haven't found the right one yet? Something like that. When I introduce my boyfriend to people, oh, I always knew. Why didn't you tell me? Things not to say to LGBTQ. Um, or oh, when I'm seen by relatives with my boyfriend in public and I was not expecting to see them, like out at a restaurant or something. Um, or when I have to ask HR for domestic partnership insurance forms. So, my point in telling this story is to give you insight into what a child is experiencing as LGBTQ. It's not something we choose. We know we are different before puberty, before a concept of sexual attraction. We know that we're different because, by the way, stop reducing the LGBTQ community to just sex and who we have sex with. That's not, that is not what it's about. I can't imagine anyone with all the things we experience in this world, everything, would choose to live this life, would choose an identity that would make it worse for them in certain situations. I saw a quote recently that I thought was amazing. Um, I think it was something along the lines of, I've dated enough men to know that um I've dated enough horrible men to know that being gay is definitely not a choice. I would have definitely switched teams by now. Um, Facts. Uh, so I'm proud of who I am now. Um, I'm also very like discomfort averse and prefer a quiet, cozy life. So I'm not going to be choosing drama. I'm not going to be choosing an identity that makes it harder for me. So to be clear, uh, not the drama of being gay, but the drama of being around people who can't handle it when it has zero impact on their daily life. They're the drama. I have heard so many stories that I will 100% admit that I did not have it as bad as so many kids. So many kids. Some didn't survive. Some are put in conversion therapy. Some are sent to conversion camps. Some have super fundamentalist families, and some get kicked out on the street, end up homeless, end up on drugs, end up um, as sex workers just so they can buy food to eat. Some get trafficked. I didn't have it that hard. I had a good experience. I was under a lot of emotional stress, a lot of horrible things, a lot of suicidal ideation, but I didn't have it as bad. And that's not to minimize my experience either. But the messages we receive early in life from the adults around us, from the people around us, those seeds get planted. Those seeds are information about who will accept us in what situations. This is information about under what conditions will we be loved, protected, safe, nourished, even just heard. So I hope one day that's just unconditional for all. Um, but I want to ask you, like, what are the adults doing when bad things happen to kids? Are they like some of my teachers and monitors who blamed me for getting bullied? Are they participating in the bullying? Because they did, or worse. It's not like our own government or churches are setting any kind of example of how the adults in the room should be treating children, right? We are all little Matthew, all humans, not just the LGBTQ community. All of us are little Matthew. We just need to be heard, validated, and shown that no matter how we identify, we will be loved. It's not a conditional love. We want to hear that whatever we feel in the moment, whoever we fall in love with, however we express ourselves, that it's all okay and you're going to be there for us. That we're not too much or we just want attention. Because if you're not going to be there for us, if you're not going to accept us, prepare to lose the privilege of being in our lives. Because we may not be able to choose our sex at birth or who we're attracted to and who we love. But as adults, we can absolutely choose who we see and speak to. So when you see Pride festivities, it is our celebration of survival. It's our refusal to accept anything less than equality. We don't want more than what you have. We want equality. We want to be able to not always have our goalpost moved. It's a celebration of our healing and recognizing our resilience. It's your reminder that we want love to rule in all its beautiful, diverse colors. So, do you know someone in the LGBTQ community? Did you wish them a happy Pride? We don't all celebrate it. I rarely have, just the last couple of years. But it's nice to hear that someone was thinking about us. Just a happy Pride from someone that we care about has a deeper message that you see us, all of us, and you're celebrating us. So, thriving adult Matthew, who is healthy and grounded and aware and has deprogrammed all that bullshit, is inviting you to work through your core wounds and limiting beliefs in coaching and energy healing sessions. Not necessarily with me. I just want you to go heal yourself. Go heal yourself. So you can check out my offerings on my website, weareradiantsouls.com, if you are interested in working with me. I would also just love to hear how this resonates with you. And I wish you all a happy Pride. All my love to you. Take care.